Okay, good evening, everyone. It's 6 o'clock. So let's start with the current situation on cash crisis. And COVID-19 perhaps has exacerbated it. The question really is, do we really have a cash crisis? Can anybody put in their chat box whether they are facing this issue of cash? In their chat box, can they share this?
I'll read out a couple of responses. One response has come, no. There are two more which are yes.
Okay, so at least there are some people who are having a cash crisis. Is that correct?
Yes, somebody has written little bit as clients are not paying on time.
I'm not interested in the reasons. All I'm looking is, do you have a problem? If you have a problem, the real question is, why do you have a problem? Now, you may say that clients are not paying. And why are they not paying? The standard answer is the clients don't have money. Maybe they are telling the truth. Maybe they are not telling the truth. But irrespective of that, one question each one of us should ask ourselves. If your company has been there in existence for 5 years, 10 years, and so on, you must ask yourself the very first question: why you don't have adequate cash? I can understand for the companies who are startups in the recent past, a maybe year or two. But what I have seen, even companies which are very, very profitable for over 20 years, they also claim we have a cash issue. The question really is, how come you are making money or profits for last 20 odd years or 10 years and still you have cash shortage or cash issues? So we are going to discuss that is it because of COVID, or COVID only has increased the what you call the problem about it. So first, this presentation is for profit organizations only, for profit. I'm not talking about NGOs or educational institutions where the goal is not to make more and more money. This is not for them. And I see there are some participants perhaps from very, let me say, far off places. Somebody in Europe is there, somebody from Latin America is there, and so on. So I must share that my experiences are only from Indian organizations. What are we going to cover? A lot of it. The very first step is, what is the goal of the organization? Now, can somebody give me a response? What is the goal? Please note very clearly, there are no goals in this, only single goal. What is the goal of the organization? Are there any people who can respond to this?
So some responses are coming. I'm just going to read them out. Making money, make profit, double the profits, 4M. That is from Ivan. To make money, Rakesh Doshi. Making money, to make more and more money, Binay Patel, make money.
Okay. So I'm glad that most of them are talking about making money. So let me add up to, most of this perhaps have seen our presentations before, but for the people who are joining absolutely for the first time, just check, Ira, are there people who have just joined today only? They have never heard about us before.
Okay, let me, yeah. So some of the responses that have come, I have not interacted with them. So yeah, Sunny Chotwani has written, he has attended for the first time. Vardhan Agarwal is attending for the first time. Okay. Ankur Sharma is attending for the first time. So I'll look through.
Okay. See, some of us, what I call MBA language, when you say the goal of the organization, the typical answer from these MBA type people is, Oh, satisfying stakeholders. No, honestly, it's a lot of nonsense. I'll tell you why. Stakeholders, do they include the vendors? Can you do anything without your vendors? No matter what type of organizations you are, if you don't have any vendor, then only perhaps you can do it. Otherwise, everyone who needs vendor, then vendor has to be a stakeholder. Now, what is the expectation of a vendor? If you want to satisfy your vendor, I'm not asking give you high price. At least you should pay the vendor on time, not before time. On the last date of the last credit period, whatever you have, you must pay. Most companies I have interacted, they do not even have an idea that how much is the overdue payments to their vendors. I'm not even saying that don't, if you have not paying on time, that's bad. But at least you don't even know. Isn't that harmful? You check yourself. Are you measuring how much overdue you are to your vendors? If not, please start doing it. Now let's come back. There are typically three major stakeholders. Most people say these are customers. It's very fashionable to say customer delight and all that. I would use the word nonsense. You look at the experience you have from your suppliers. Are they delighting you? They may also say exactly the same what you are saying, but what is your experience? Often it's just a lip service. So let's assume that you would really mean to improve your customer service, customer delight, whatever you want to call it. Is it possible to delight your customer for short and long run if your employees are not happy? Any response, please?
So one response has come. Prasad says no.
No. So
a few others are also saying no.
See, short term, perhaps even if your employees are not happy with you, till they get another job or they get disgusted more with you, they will still continue to do. But don't expect them to carry on this for long. So if you want to delight your customers today and tomorrow, then there is no other possibility but your employees must be satisfied today as well as tomorrow. This must be reasonably clear by now. Now let's go to the next thing. If we want to keep our employees happy, is it a must that we must make money? Some response, please.
Yes, I can see a few yeses coming. Definitely yes. Yes, true.
So if you want to satisfy your employees, you must make money. There's no choice in that. There's absolutely no choice. So what we have just learned, that in case you want to satisfy your customers today and tomorrow, you must keep your employees happy. And in order to keep employees happy, you must make money. Now, if you take any one of these three goals, for example, employee happiness as the supreme goal of the organization, even then you need to make money because your goal is to keep the employees happy. But now if we want to make money, can we do it without satisfying the customers now as well as in future? Perhaps short term, even with your customers not happy with you, you perhaps can still make money, but not for long. So what we have just shared here, that no matter whichever the three goals you choose, the other two become the necessary condition.
There is a comment which has come from a participant. Can I share it now?
Please go ahead.
Yeah. So Sachin Nahar says, sorry, but can employees be satisfied just by paying more?
No, it's a minimum condition. I'm not saying it is sufficient, but at least it is minimum. Now, how do you agree with this?
Yes, he's saying yes.
Okay. So when we say the goal of the company, you can choose either one of them. It's one and the same. It is three sides of the same coin. But now comes the difficulty of measuring the goal. If you take customer satisfaction, if you take employee satisfaction, it is very fragile. For customer, they will rate you on the last experience they had. Let them have an excellent experience for last 10 years. You make a few wrong, what you call supplies or some quality issue, they will change the vendor. Same thing with employees. Now, between the three, I believe that measuring money is less difficult. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it is less difficult. Any questions, any doubts on this before I move to the next point? That is the typical goal measurements. Ira, you can read for me if there's any comment.
No comment, just okay.
Okay. So now let's, for the time being, we'll assume the goal is 4M. 4M stands for making more and more money. And as we have just discussed a few seconds before, 4M is totally aligned with customer satisfaction and employee satisfaction, or for that matter, any other stakeholder. I've just taken these two as the most commonly used stakeholders. Now, typical goal measurements. Now, this is where the major problem to start with it happens. Oh, our goal is to grow. Grow in what? Generally, they mean growth in sales. Then another thing is growth in EBITDA, the worst possible measurement for making money. Yes, almost the entire world uses it. But look at this. What does it mean? Earnings before interest, depreciation, amortization, and tax. As if the interest, depreciation, and tax you are not going to pay, somebody else is going to pay. To me, it is the most stupid thing. You want to learn more about it? Read Warren Buffett's letters to its shareholders, what he talks about EBITDA. Now we come down to more decent word called profit. Now here also we'll discuss in more detail how misleading this word profit is. Some other people say growth in profits. Excellent. Then there are two other parameters which are oftenly used. One is called return on investment, or more correctly called in financial language, return on total capital employed. Often use the short form called ROCE, ROCE. Of course, few companies focus also or perhaps only on free cash flow. Now, what shall we use? We'll discuss in a few minutes. Current pains with COVID-19. For many organizations, specifically in India in the month of April and May, sales volumes dropped very significantly, if not zero. Is there anyone who did not find that their sales have shrunk as compared to the previous period? Anyone? I'm checking whether the pains what I have listed, are they really correct or it's my assumption only?
Yeah, please share your responses in the chat window. Okay, Rachna has written sales have improved.
So 1%. So I'm very happy that in April and May, including April and May, their total sales has been more than the corresponding period, if I can say, last year. Is that correct, Rachna?
Yes, she's saying yes.
Excellent. Sachin, what business, what industry segment they are in, Rachna?
E-learning.
Absolutely correct. right now we are also on, in a way, e-learning. I would have never thought that it's possible in the past that I could be having a dialogue with hundreds of people on Zoom. I could have never ever imagined. You're absolutely right. Apart from e-learning, anybody else who has this positive experience?
Yeah, so actually 3-4 responses are that April May dropped, but after that the increase was better. Sachin Nahar has written this. Um, a few others, Aditya Bagri.
Okay, for quite a few of you, because if you see automobiles in India, automobile components, and many other companies have been crying that their sales are practically zero, if not totally zero, near zero. And then there are huge losses. Now, I can share one name of the company, which I was very, very, let me use the word angry. The company's name is JCB. You might have heard these companies. It, to the best of my knowledge, it was making a lot of profits for the last 40, 50 years. And it decided to lay off a lot of its people. What do you think would be the reason? Why were they laying off people? What is the reason? Any response? Or for that matter, any company, why does it lay off people?
Okay. Lack of work, less sales, cash crunch.
Obviously, no company hires people to lay them off. But in their mind, either they say sales is not going to be there, our profits are going to shrink, or we may get into losses. That's the reason they would lay off people. Another thing, and this is where now we come to the real point where we have today's presentation is unable to keep financial commitments to banks, vendors, employees, and government. How many of you honestly share that you had difficulty keeping GST payments, making GST payments on time, every time? Are there people who had difficulties? Yes or no?
No, one response is no, another no.
Okay. So one question then I will ask all those people when I finish with this, that if you didn't have cash problem, what is the reason of joining today here? Because I'm going to discuss primarily on cash. If you don't have cash crisis, what benefit you will have by joining today? Think about it and let me know. I'll move in the meantime. Are there even one person who has a problem on making payments on GST to the government of India on time, even if there's one person?
Yes, there are 3-4 who have said yes.
Okay, I'm glad.
Yes, it was till June. Yeah.
Because at least they will find it worthwhile.
Yeah, quite a few actually have now responded saying that they weren't able to do it.
Okay. Now the question comes, why do we have a problem of making payments for GST, banks, vendors, employees, etc.? Often the answer I get, we don't have cash. But my question then comes, why no cash reserves? Why? For example, when we go out of home, we always keep some cash in our pocket, even though credit card, almost every one of us carry a credit card, but we do keep some money in the pocket. Why? One simple reason, maybe somewhere the credit card is not accepted or credit card doesn't work, some glitch somewhere. Similarly, I'll ask everyone who is sitting here, specifically employees, if you don't get salary for next 2-3 months, can you survive? I'm not saying live at the same living standard. Can you survive?
Yes. Yes. Quite a few responses. Yes, everyone is saying.
Now my question comes, if you don't get salary for next 2-3 months, you know, and you can survive. In the last such session, which I was having in about 6 months back at an international conference, when I asked people how many more months can you survive without getting any more money, the answer ranged anywhere from 6 to 18 months. From 6 months to 18 months. My question is that as an employee, we are all cognizant of the fact that we must keep some cash reserve. How come companies do not have cash reserves even for a few months? The prime reason why is it so? Some wrong assumption, knowledge given to companies, where keeping cash is considered a sin. Incidentally, just for some people who have heard of Warren Buffett, in May, first week of May, Warren Buffett informed his shareholders that they have kept $129 billion, $129 billion as cash in the bank should any emergency arise. Now, is COVID-19 responsible for not keeping adequate cash reserves? Or it just exposed the mistake we have all been doing? Any responses, please?
There's one response, survive for a few months.
Yeah, but why people didn't keep at all? I'm not saying you keep it for 2 years. Incidentally, I have been told at least 10 years back, Infosys keeps 1 year of cash reserve. That even if they don't have any income for 1 more year, they can continue to work or run their operations as it is, even if they don't get 1 rupee next 12 months. I don't know what's the situation today, but at least 10, 12 years back, that was the situation. Now, I'm coming to the important parameter. Why do we measure anything? What is the purpose of measurement? Some response, please. Any response?
Yeah, now there's one response from Rachna Kaura, to know the health.
To know the
health.
Rachna, sorry, you're wrong here. Let's say you felt slightly feverish in the morning and you put a thermometer in your mouth and the temperature came to 99 degrees Fahrenheit. Throughout the day, you have been measuring your temperature. It fluctuates between 98.8 and 99.2. Only by measurement will it help you improve your health. You will know your health, agreed. But will it help you improve? Rachana, I want a response.
Not improve. She's saying
Thank you.
know. Yeah.
Knowing is not enough. In fact, this is where the first line which I'm sharing here, the only purpose of any measurement in life is to help take right decision for corrective action. Now, what could be the corrective action? A decision, should I go to a doctor or not? Should I take some medicine or not? Or it's okay, I need not take, it will go off on its own. That's also a decision, but it should help you, any measurement should help you take the right corrective decision for right corrective action. Is it okay with you, Rachna?
Yes, she's saying yes.
Okay. Now we come down to our main topic, making money or managing cash crisis. Now, these words profit, return on capital employed, free cash flow, growth in sales, are they adequate enough to take corrective actions, right decisions for right corrective actions? Some response, please.
Please respond in the chat window. No, not adequate.
Not adequate. Okay. Somebody had written quite a few minutes before a response in 8 minutes by Amlan Kanti Das. To reduce fixed costs as sales are not sure. This is when people are laid off. We'll discuss in due course of time. We will discuss this point. Now, the problem with measurements are specifically, even though free cash flow is a very good financial measurement, it does not get due importance in a list of financial measurements. In fact, check for yourself. Do you know whichever company you are working, even if you are an owner, what was your free cash flow for last financial year, for financial year ending March 20? Almost 8 months have passed by. Do you know your free cash flow? If somebody says yes, please tell me, how much is it? Any response, Ira?
No. I mean, the response is no.
Okay. So let me explain to you here. What happens, I'm going to take the example of a cricket match. In a cricket match, what is the goal of any team which is playing in it? The goal, simple the goal. What should be the goal of any cricket team?
A few responses have come. Everybody has written to win. 7, 8 responses.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Now, if different members of the team have different ideas of what is the goal of their team or organization, do you think they can win the match? Somebody says that I have to make more runs. Somebody says I have to take more wickets. Sure enough. But is that the goal? Any response, please?
Sachin Nahar says, though it may help, but it will not lead surely to a win.
Now, in most companies, if you take the top 8, 10, 12 people and ask them, what is the goal of your organization and how will you measure it? What are the chances that you will get identical answer? If not, you have a problem. Because if the top team does not even know or they don't agree on the goal of the company and its measurements or measurement, what are the chances that you will achieve your goal? Anyone?
Zero.
So one thing I can suggest to you, whether you are having a cash issue or not, even Rachna, you don't have a cash issue, your sales has gone up, but do check out one simple thing. Please take a time out and make sure that at least top 8, 10 people, CEO and his direct or her direct reports must have identical goal and its measurements. Now let's move a little further. Assuming you have the team has agreed on the goal is to make more and more money. Now we have to come to its measurement. Unfortunately, even though profit after tax, return on capital employed, and free cash flow are very good financial measurements, but sometimes they can lead us to totally wrong action or decision. I'll give you an example. Most of the people in this country, or even the services organization, they have 18% GST. Now, assume from any company, whatever service or product you're selling, if I decide to buy from you one service or product at a unheard of price of $1 trillion, $1 trillion with a credit period of 3 months or 6 months, how many of you will give me that? No company in the world, not even Apple, has a $1 trillion turnover. I'm ready to take your service or product for $1 trillion, payable after 3 months or 6 months. How many of you will sell it to me? Some response, please.
Yeah, a few responses. 2-3 people have written no, no way.
Okay. But many people, no. Has anybody written yes?
No.
So the people who have written no, why no? What is the reason? Please tell me your reason.
Prasad has written cannot sell, no capacity.
What nonsense. I'm taking one. Prasad, what are you making? What are you making? I'm asking you that question.
Prasad is into projects, if you remember, refractory and projects.
Fine, I'll pick up a small refractory for him for $1 trillion. Useless refractory lying in a corner. Scrap. I'm ready to pay you $1 trillion. Will you sell it to you or not?
Okay, sure, he's saying.
Sure. Now, you have not understood the implication of this. Because if you sell me for $1 trillion, 18% GST on that amounts to $180 billion. If I buy that from you today, you have to pay to the government of India $180 billion. No company in the world would have that sort of a money to pay to its government. They'll become bankrupt. Is this clear to everyone? Is this clear? This is a very important parameter before we move further. If someone is not clear, let me explain that properly.
So we're getting responses. People are saying yes.
Okay. Please appreciate sales, profit, and ROC. These three words, sales, profit, ROC, or any other financial parameter other than free cash flow, they are just numbers. The only thing which can help you survive is free cash flow. If you got money in the bank, irrespective of the loss you are making, you can survive. Is this clear to everyone? On the other hand, no matter what is your growth in sales, profit, ROC, whatever number you talk, if you don't have money, you can die very fast. Look at Jet Airways, look at Kingfisher, and look at many other companies. Why did they close down? What was the reason? What is the reason? Anybody has an idea? Please share.
Cash, no cash. No cash to fund.
No cash. Now what happens? If you got cash, you got many things. If you don't have cash, nothing else matters. Now, unfortunately, if you look at it in any company, how much time we devote to measuring cash, forget about increasing it. Hardly any time is given in most companies that I have worked for or I have consulted for. Like I had asked you, 9 months have passed by, 8 months have passed by, your financial year is over. Please tell me your cash flow for last financial year. At least to the best of my knowledge, Ira, has anybody responded?
No, in fact, the response was that they don't know.
They don't know. Why? Because it was never considered important enough. So please, from me, one take you can have. If you don't want to measure anything else, perfectly fine. If you have to measure only one thing, it should be free cash flow. Is it clear to everyone? You got money, you can survive. You don't have money, you are in a deep crisis. Now, in a cricket match, who all has to know how the scoring is done? Some response, please.
Everyone in the team.
Everyone. In our game in the company, where the goal for the time being we have assumed is to making more and more money, who all should know how the money is made? Who all should know? Who all should know?
Everybody, all of us.
Everyone.
Everyone. Yeah.
Great. How many of us know? I can tell you this problem is so severe. Even very, very large companies, supposedly most, I would say, financial savvy companies, top companies in the world, I'm going to make a statement which might hurt many of you. Most companies' top people are financially illiterate. Yes. I'll give you one proof for that. Enron, this company, how many of you would have heard about it? Anybody heard about the Enron company? In the first decade of 2000, it went bankrupt. Very large company. Anybody knows about it?
Responses are coming. People are saying yes.
1 month before, when it did not know that within a month they will run out of cash and they'll be forced to close down. And who were the top people who did not know? The executive chairman, Kenneth Lay, the CEO, Jeff Skilling, and I think the CFO, even the CFO, Johnny Bastro, he also did not know. For them, sales and profit were the key parameters. Do you think this happens only with Enron? Go and ask your CFO and CEO, what was your free cash flow for last month? Very few people will be able to give you that correct answer. It's similar to a cricket match. If most of the players don't even know how the scoring is done, what are the chances that you will win the match? Fluke. Blind playing with other blinds. You are surviving in the normal course because others are equally blind. To my mind, the finance for running a company can be learned before we end the session today. You do not need mathematics beyond class 5, nothing more than that. I promise you this. So I'm going to share with you if you want to learn it. Okay. we are assumed that we are a money-making machinery. Where does the money come from? Any idea? Where does the money come from?
Sales, customers, selling goods, customers' payment.
Sales. So in our case, in this hypothetical example, I've taken sales for a particular month, let's say November, of $100. And assume for the time being, we are not giving any credit, zero credit. You sold something for $100, you got 100. Now, there is on the left side, you will see a word written PVC. What we call is pure variable cost. Pure variable cost. The pure variable cost for selling this $100 worth of material was $60. Now, what does pure means? Pure variable cost. It basically means if I produce 1 unit less and sell 1 unit less, whatever cost I will share, that is my pure variable cost. Is this concept clear to everyone?
Yes, clear.
Thank you. So in our company, in the month of November, we sold material worth $100. The cost for that, just the pure variable cost, was $60. How much money is left in our hand? $100 minus 60 is how much? How much? Ira, any response?
Response, yeah, few responses, 40.
Great. Now, apart from pure variable cost, I have some other expenses, what we call operating expenses. OE is written. Operating expenses are those expenses, irrespective of production or sale, these expenses will be incurred. Now, what are these expenses? Employee salaries, the rent, if you have taken an office on rent, electricity expenses, if it is just an office. It could be any interest you have to pay to the bank, irrespective whether you produce or sell or not, the bank is going to charge you the interest of whatever money you have borrowed from them, and so on. So we have a fixed expense of about $30. So $100 was the money came in, 60 went to the vendors, operating expense was $30. How much money left over? How much money left over?
10.
Now, this is what we call profit. Sales minus all expenses. And there are only two types of expenses. Either it's a variable or fixed. So I've subtracted both. So we have a profit of $10. Now comes the major thing, which most people don't know. There's one more parameter called I. What is this I? Can you see there's some sort of a tank shape is there? I stands for all money blocked in the company. I is all the money blocked in the system. Now, what does this consist of? It consists of land, building, plant and machinery, inventories, receivables, etc. All money which belongs to us, but we cannot immediately encash it. Any clarity on this? If any question before I move further?
Yeah, no questions.
Very good. Now, in the beginning of the month, I had I of 300. But by the end of the month, this tank expanded a little bit and became 303. What do you think will be the money go into the bank on the top?
Okay, so there are a few responses. 7.
Is 7.
Yeah, the number is 7. Yeah.
Fantastic. Congratulations. That is free cash flow. It's as simple as that. Look, $100 came in. $3 were spent on increasing the size of the tank because some 3 units of money were blocked in the system, either because of inventory or because of receivable, or you purchased some equipment for that one. $60 went out to the vendors, $30 went on other expenses. The money left over is $7. It's called free cash flow. Any confusion so far on this?
Some people, when they saw this slide, some people wrote investment, some wrote inventory. Okay. One person asked, is this I same as capital employed?
Perfect answer. But it is beyond sometimes I can use the word capital employed. For example, you are given an advance to the vendors. You are some security deposit to the, let me say, State Electricity Board. Any money which belongs to us, but right now not available to be given to my vendors or to my employees, I can't spend it immediately. That is what I would call it. In all probability, capital employed is the correct word, but I don't know what is their definition. Hence, I'm a little not saying capital employed. It is all money blocked in the system. Check with the person, is that, has he got his answer correctly or not?
Yeah, I think this was from Maria. Yeah, she's saying it's clear.
Okay, Maria. She's a finance director from Latin America. Am I right, Maria?
Yes.
Okay, what time is it there in your country? Sorry, I didn't hear properly.
7 a.m. She's saying it's 7 a.m.
Oh, you are an early riser to join this program. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. So let's move on to a little bit more calculations. Simple. There are only 3 parameters which are good enough for us. One we call throughput, one we call investment, and one is called operating expenses. Now, let me go back to the previous slide. Throughput is the rate of contribution over a period of time. Please note it's not contribution. It's a rate of contribution. Throughput always involves a period of time. So in 1 month, if my sales was 100 and my pure variable costs are 60, throughput, I will call it 40. Is this clear to everyone? If the answer is clear, then I move to the next one.
No, we've got a request. Please repeat.
Let's say in a month, my sales was $100. For that sales, my pure variable cost, the pure variable cost for that particular sales was $60. Then in that month, my contribution will be $40. Is this clear?
Yeah, it's clear.
This contribution over a period of month is called throughput. That's all. If this is clear, I'll move to the next one. Now we have operating expense of 30 units. And one more thing, what is my investment I? I is all the money blocked in the system. If you know these 3 parameters, T, I, and OE, I promise you, you know all the finance. You don't need anything more, nothing more. Let's go to the next point. I think this all 3, this is what I had explained. If please take a minute, go through this. If you have a question, please ask.
There is one question. What is the difference between T and contribution?
Okay. For a product, contribution is there. For example, let's say you are selling one product for 10 rupees, $10. The material cost, let's say you are a trading organization. Your purchase cost is $7. The contribution per piece is $3. But I can't calculate throughput unless I know how many pieces did I sell in the entire month. Is this clear now?
Okay, there is one more question.
No, but first check with that person.
Yeah, Mr. Athavale. Yeah, that was from Mr. Rajiv Athavale.
Okay, okay. Fine. Rajiv knows it too well. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So the next question is, do we take depreciation for the purpose of calculating FCF?
Who's asked this question?
Nitin Sanghi.
Nitin, what happens? Look at I. As soon as depreciation is a part of OE, correctly put. But see what happens when we subtract depreciation as a or include depreciation as a part of fixed expense. If we don't do anything else, it will also reduce the I simultaneously. Is this clear?
Yes, he's.
Yeah. When I come to FCF, you will understand it beautifully. It's not a rocket science, because many times you have a confusion. Many people have this confusion that depreciation is a non-cash expense. So why should it be considered impacting our cash? It does not, because in our template, the moment you take depreciation as a part of operating expense, I automatically comes down but to that extent. Is this clear, Mr. Sanghi?
Yes, he's saying yes. Okay. Then there is another question from Amar Bhotika. Is throughput same as gross profit?
No. Because first, I don't know what you mean by gross profit. Different organizations use different terminologies. So I am not going to get caught into that. I've defined very clearly. No, you give whatever name you like. But since most companies use various other terms, I don't want to confuse you. That's why I'm not using contribution. I'm not using gross profit. I'm saying it is throughput. That's all. It's a name I'm giving. You want to give another name? Give whatever name you like. I have no problem with that. Just don't get confused.
Yeah, he's saying, okay, noted.
Okay, I'm moving further.
Yeah, just one last point. Throughput is excluding GST?
Of course. Because GST, even if you take GST, then it's a variable cost. You have to pay to the government. You collect from the customer and pay to the government.
Right. So you can move on. No other questions.
Okay. So now I'm going to give you a little bit more. You all will agree that profit is equal to sales minus all expenses. Do you all agree? And then I've given the split of all expenses, sales minus pure variable cost minus operating expense. And now you can see profit is equal to T minus OE. Is this clear to everyone?
Yes, clear.
Now, ROI is a rough substitute for return on capital employed. It's not exactly, but for all of a practical understanding, it is okay. Return on capital employed or ROI is profit upon I. I is all money blocked in the system. Or somebody has used the word capital employed. Yes, profit upon all the money what is there in the company. This is return on investment or return on capital employed, whatever you want to call it. And by now, profit is T minus OE divided by I is ROI. Is it clear so far? Clear?
Clear, yeah.
Now comes the last parameter and perhaps the most important. What is free cash flow? The formula is P minus delta I. Now, some of you who come from science stream, engineering stream, or mathematical one, delta stands for incremental increase over the previous period. Is this clear to everyone?
Clear.
Okay. Just to give you the example, I'm just putting our sale was 100, PVC was 60, operating expense was 30. So profit became 10. Is this clear once again to everyone? Sale is 100, yes. PVC is 60, operating expenses 30, so profit is 10. Is this clear?
Yes.
Now, let's say our I was about 300. So 10 upon 300 is the return on investment for that particular period. 10 upon 300. So it is 0.3% for that month. Now let's come down to the last one. Profit was 10, but our I went up by 3 units, you remember? So how much was the cash? How much was the cash?
7.
7. Now comes the real issue. If you believe that ultimate you need to improve your free cash flow, rest all are means. When we say let's make more and more money, I'm not talking of profits. To me, money is which I can spend, which I can do whatever I want. Money is what I have in the bank. Accordingly, whenever we do anything to improve the health, financial health of the company, we'll have to see what is happening on free cash flow. Is this clear to everyone?
Yes. Yes, people are saying yes.
Okay, I'll move further and now show you some interesting parameter. It is a little bit more detailing. FCF is P minus delta I. FCF, P is T minus OE. Delta I remains as it is. Now, what is delta I? Let's get into further. Delta capital investment plus delta accounts receivable plus delta inventories minus delta payable. Anybody understands why I put minus here? Any idea?
It is for our supplier, payment to vendors,
absolutely,
cash out.
Yeah, because what happens if my vendors give me extra credit, to that extent, I don't have to pay that money now. Whereas when I invest money in my capital investment, I have to put money upfront. When I sell something and don't get the money, my accounts receivable go up. It adds to the working capital. When inventories go up, it adds to the working capital. But when my vendor credit goes up, amount, that reduces my what you call working capital. Is it clear? I'm assuming it should not be difficult. Now comes FCF is approximately equal to, because we are not every day investing in new capital. We do it infrequently, not every month, maybe every quarter, maybe every half yearly, or maybe sometime even yearly. So for all practical purposes, day in and day out, the changes which will happen will be happening in three areas: accounts receivable, inventories, and payables. See, the signs have reversed here, because when accounts receivable go up, the tank expands, the free cash flow comes down. When inventories expand, FCF come down. When vendor credit expands, my working capital shrinks, my tank shrinks, and we get increase in FCF. Is this clear? Please help me if this is clear.
There is no response right now. Yeah, okay. There's one response from Ivan. Clear.
Okay. So what shall we do to increase FCF? The answers are very clear. Please increase T, reduce OE, reduce accounts receivable, reduce inventories, and increase payables. Any one of them moving in the right direction will help you increase FCF. Is this clear? Unfortunately, there's a small problem, because these elements are not all alone. When you try to improve or reduce one, other also get impacted many times. For example, when we are increasing sales, what will increase? If, let's say, I've increased my sales by 20% in a particular month, what will happen to T?
It will go up.
Will go up. Assume for the time being that my fixed expenses do not go up. I have enough capacity to produce and sell another 20%. So OE remains constant. What happens to accounts receivable?
Yeah, so Sachin Nahar has already written account receivables may also increase. Deepak Narwal has said increase.
Inventories may or may not go up or go down. It depends. Because many times when we sell more, our inventories will get depleted. We start buying also more. It depends how much you have purchased more or less than what you have sent out. And of course, if you purchase more, then your payables are likely to go up. Are you clear about it? So if you want to improve your cash flow, you will have to see these 5 parameters. Any decision you want to take, any decision, you will have to look at all 5 of them. What is the impact on them? Is it clear? Okay. I'm going to move to slightly more difficult. Just give me one moment. I want to see. Yeah, I want to show this slide first. I'm now sharing a situation of a company where cash was just about sufficient. I'll explain simple way. Let's say the money available in the bank in the beginning of the month was $100. Our fixed expenses for the month was $50, which I have to pay immediately for the last month. So money left to buy material was $50. Is this clear? Now, my material purchased or pure variable cost, I purchased $50 worth of material. Assume that I am able to sell at twice my material cost. So my sale will be 100. How much will be throughput? 100 minus 50 is 50. Is this clear? At the end of the month, I'm also getting the $100 back. Whatever I sold, I got. And at this moment, my capacity utilization is just 50%. So next month, I start once again with $100. And now what happens? The same scenario repeats. Now, why did I call it precariously balanced? Because in the next slide, I will show you what happens if for some reason a little bit cash is reduced. See what happens. In the first month, exactly the starting was the same, but my customer did not pay me $100. He deducted $10 as penalty for some what the client feels as substandard material. He deducted $10. So what happens in the next month? What is happening? I'm starting with 90. Is this clear to everyone? I'm starting with how much? $90. My fixed expense still remain $50, please. So how much money left over with me for buying the material? 40. I can't buy more than 40. So I buy $40 worth of material, but now my sales will become to 80. The throughput has come down to 40. And money available at the end of the month is $80. I start the same. By the end of the third month, now I'm left with $10. Okay. Fourth month, I'm left with $10. Money close. No, I'm sorry. This is a mistake here. I must correct it here. I had a sale of $20. So I start the last month with $20. Now what happens? Now what happens? I'm left with $20 and $50 is my operating expense. So company is closed. Is this point clear to everyone? Please ask me if anybody has a question here. A very slight reduction in cash availability can bring a company to bankruptcy if you're precariously balanced. Is this clear to everyone? Please.
Yes, we're getting responses. It's clear.
Okay. Now let's go the other way around. This time we are adding a small increase. Now see what happens. Some very interesting phenomena. Some old customer paid me $10, which he felt that he had wrongly deducted in the past. So he owes me $10. He was very nice. He gave us $10. We don't care how did it come. Maybe you sold some scrap somewhere and you got additional $10. See now what happens. I start with 110. $50 is my fixed expense. 60 is left over. So we buy the material for $60, convert into a sale of 120. At the end of the month, how much money I have? 120. We start with 120 on the third month. We end up with 140. In the fourth month, we start with 140 and end up with 180. But in fifth month, something interesting happens. Money available is 180. Operating expense is 50. So money left to buy material will be 100. But why I'm buying material only of 100? Any idea? I want some response. Why not the entire 130? Any idea?
Not one response is not enough demand.
No, there's enough demand. There's
Full
no
capacity.
shortage.
Capacity utilization is 100%.
Yes, because that's why capacity utilization was given. If I buy more, I still can't produce and sell more than 100 units or you consume 100 units of raw material. I'm already gone to 100% capacity. All I'm trying to show you here, with a small increase in cash, the situation can be turned around very rapidly and vice versa. With a small decrease in cash, you can be closed, or with a small increase in cash, you can totally turn around. Is this clear to everyone? Is this clear to everyone?
Yes, yes.
Now I'll go back to where I started here. Now, remember, any measurement in our life, it has only one purpose: take better decisions. When cash is the constraint, a small increase or decrease has a non-linear impact on sales, throughput, profit, and free cash flow. I've shown you through that small simulation. Is this clear? Now comes a slightly more difficult word: cash velocity. I remember I learned compound interest in my class 5. I don't know in what class do they teach in mathematics class these days. Cash velocity we're trying is like defined as increase in cash flow per unit of cash per unit of time. What it means, if I add $1 extra, how much cash flow improve in 1 month, that will be cash velocity. Is this clear to everyone? Is the definition clear? Ira?
Yeah, there's no response so far. So maybe you can give an example.
You see, let us say one bank is giving you 10% as interest per month. I'm deliberately making it per month. So after, if you deposit 100, how much will you get after 1 month? Anybody?
$110.
So how much is the increase in your cash now? You started with 100, now you have got 110, correct? So 10 units have increased, but what was your starting cash? 100. So cash velocity for this operation can be called as 10%. Is this clear now? Now we go to the second month. Now my opening cash is 110. How much do I have at the end of second month?
121.
121. Now I can also say that I started with 100 units and I ended after 2 months at 121. In the first month, I will generate 10. In the second month, I will generate 11. Do you think the percentage interest what we were getting was different in 2 months or the same?
Same.
Thank you. Now, the formula for calculating cash velocity is the same formula what we used to calculate in school. Cash velocity is sales, or in particular case, if you want to take a decision about a product, sales divided by PVC raised to power 1 upon n. I will explain what is n, minus 1. S stands for sales, PVC is pure variable cost, and n is cash to cash cycle time in months. Many times you will observe, specifically Prashant. Prashant, are you there today?
Yes, Prashant was on the line in the beginning. I don't know if
okay. He had asked me a question. Then one customer is paying me 5% higher, but he wants longer credit period. Should I give it or not? So it depends. If you are in a cash constrained situation where your sales, production, everything is dependent upon because you don't have adequate cash, the correct method is to calculate the cash velocity. Faster the cash velocity, higher the cash velocity, better is the cash flow for the organization. Now, I must emphasize, cash velocity is not the goal of the organization. It is to help better decision making for increasing goal achievement. Is it clear to you? Cash velocity we can use to decide which customer should I accept the order and which customer I should not, because I have shortage of cash. Similarly, when I'm buying material from a vendor, even though the vendor may be charging me more money, more price, but if he gives me a longer credit period, through this methodology, we can work out, should I go to vendor A or vendor B, or a customer X or customer Y? Is this clear to everyone? Zoom has this issue that we can't directly interact with one-on-one, specifically when you have large number of people. Let me come to last. I'm assuming people have some idea what not to do in cash constraint. On this, I must share a little bit. I learned one very small thing from Warren Buffett long time back in 2003. Says you can't do the right thing, don't do right things. Just stop doing wrong things. And since then, it has been a mantra with me that if I can't do right thing, no problem. Let me stop doing wrong things. In this specific context, do not lay off people. That's the number one. Stop measuring efficiency parameters. It is of no consequence. Stop measuring sales turnover in currency or in number of units. Because in most cases, when you increase sales, the resultant throughput increase will be very small as resultant increase in working capital. So what happens as you're increasing sales, your cash goes down. In fact, many times it is desirable to reduce sales to increase cash. Stop measuring EBITDA, PBT, PAT, ROC. These have no consequences. Very interesting. Stop taking large customer orders. Why? Think hard. Prashant, are you there? Prashant, are you there?
No, I think he's not online.
He's not online. Anybody else? Why should we not take large customer orders?
Yeah, because it blocks working capital, very high investment in terms of credit and raw material.
Perfect. Simply, when you take a large order, customer will typically say, send me in one lot, which means your cash to cash cycle time will go long. As simple as that. And God forbid, at the last minute, when the customer inspector comes and checks something and he finds some problem, now you're in more trouble. So don't take small customer order. If you are getting a large customer order, ask the customer, can I supply you in shorter lots? Don't take one large customer order. Exactly the same thing is stop buying large quantities for availing quantity discount and saving freight cost. Because what will happen, you already have a shortage of money. If you buy one particular material, very large quantity, you might starve money for other materials. Thereby, you can't even use this material also. And lastly, don't try to squeeze on tea, coffee, etc. This, I've seen it happening. Sometimes it pains me that it's not going to make any difference whatsoever. And yet we say, let's cut down on tea, coffee, travel, etc., etc. What to do in cash constraint? Now, so far what I said was what not to do. Simple thing. Start measuring disbursable cash in the bank and free cash flow on a daily or weekly frequency. Every morning. By the way, free cash flow measuring every day is the easiest possible thing. Does anybody know, or should I tell you? The simplest way, where you do not need mathematics beyond class 1, not even class 5, only class 1. Does anybody know how to measure free cash flow on a daily basis without knowing any mathematics beyond class 1?
Yeah, so there are a couple of responses. See the account, delta of cash in hand, debit and credit, check bank account.
Perfect answer.
What comes in minus what goes out.
Perfect. All you have to do is just look at your bank statement every morning, how much money you have in the bank. If it went up from yesterday, you had a positive free cash flow. If it went down, you have a negative free cash flow. That's all. It is as simple as that. Can this be done or not? I can tell you from one very large organization, it's a $5 billion company annual sales. It measures its free cash flow every morning. The chairman wants, this is the first thing he wants to see when he gets up in the morning. The very first thing in the morning, he wants to see how much free cash flow I had yesterday. Allocate cash. And remember, we have a shortage of cash. Allocate cash with highest priority to highest cash velocity business line, product, or family. Many times, there are more than one claimant for cash. How do I distribute it? Not equally. Where the cash velocity is the highest, give as much as is required there. Leftover, go to the second highest. Go to the leftover, go to the third highest. Is this clear? Third is use cash velocity for taking decisions on accepting customer orders, vendor selection, transportation mode, etc., etc. Because remember, when you shorten the cash to cash cycle time, cash velocity goes up. When you lengthen it, cash velocity will come down. Are you clear about it? How do we reduce cash to cash cycle time? Faster collection of accounts payable, even at a significant cash discount. Because in most cases, the cash velocity for most companies in India, what I've seen is about 30% per month, 30 per month. So even for a month, instead of giving 1-2% as cash discount, you have to give 5%. It makes sense for you to collect faster cash by collecting money even at a 5% discount per month, because you will make more money, because generally your cash velocity will it typically ranges between 20 and 40% per month. 20 to 40% per month, average is about 30 odd. So what is your problem? Same thing, increase credit terms with suppliers even at a higher prices if required. Reduce RM inventories with smaller minimum order quantity, even at higher prices. Questions, please. We're coming towards the end of our presentation. So if there are questions, please ask me. We have a lot of time.
So there were a couple of, there's one point which Prashant has asked. It's not very clear to me. I'll just read out what he has said. Cash allocation means production planning or RM issuance?
Cash, which production planning has nothing to do with this. When you say cash planning, cash is used for buying raw materials. Which material should I buy? For which product line should I buy? It is for that. I am assuming that if you're in a cash constraint, you have a shortage of right materials. Prashant, are you there?
Yeah, I think, his question is that, is this cash allocation only for RM or something? Could it be for something else also?
It could be anything. It could be anything. Yeah. It could be for, should I make the payments to the transporters or should I buy raw material? Now look at it, you got products ready. The transporter is refusing to lift the material because his past payments have not been made. You make a small payment to the transporter, your material goes out, your customer is ready to pay you money. Don't buy more raw material at this moment.
Okay, there is a question from Amit Garga from Mahindra Holidays.
Yes.
His question is, why should layoffs not be done?
Excellent question. Now, why do you want to lay off? Please respond. Why should layoff be done first of all? Not, I don't know, but first tell me, why do you want to lay off people? Please respond. Unmute yourself and speak if you wish.
He has typed save cost, remove lower productivity personnel.
Bullshit. The goal of the company is not productivity. Did I explain you right in the beginning? What is the goal of the company? What is the goal of the company?
He was not there initially, he's saying.
Sorry, then I can't help you. The goal of the company is to make more money. It's not cost reduction. It's not productivity increase. It is not to increase sales. Goal of the company is do whatever you want, but increase cash flow, both in short and long term.
But doesn't the operating expenses increase if people don't contribute to business?
Then why have you waited so long?
Because
if you had bad
so I'm just
people,
trying to understand this.
Yeah. Understand why to do in this situation. If somebody is not suitable, why have you held on so far?
Okay, so in the current structure, if I look at from a hospitality angle,
yes,
leads which we were getting earlier were very high.
Yes.
In my company, while cash flow is not a real concern, so I'm parking.
And forget about it.
Yeah.
I'm discussing. On the other side, we can have one-on-one discussion because I'm very, very severe on this.
No, that's the reason I want. See, I have a similar viewpoint, but I want.
Okay. Now, when you are not in a cash constraint, the reduction which you can use from laying off people is peanuts as compared to the throughput you can increase. There's a difference, could be as 50 is to 100, 50 or 100 is to 1. How much money can you save? Typically, whom do you fire? You don't fire your CEO.
No,
you fire some lowerly housekeeping staff, some casuals. You save peanuts. Chupchik is the correct word. It's a Hebrew word I don't want to translate here.
Okay. So the point I'm trying to understand, in our current business, since hospitality, you would see a lot of exits which have happened, not in large in my company, because like I said, the model is different. But what I've seen is a lot of people have tried it in hospitality. The second issue we have observed that the number of leads have gone down.
Look, there are many other reasons. All I'm explaining you, the first look at the possibility of increasing throughput is so high as compared to reduction in operating expense. It makes no sense to focus on operating expense.
So you're saying it will be peanuts versus to what is the major other?
Number one.
Okay.
Number one, what do you think people enjoy being laid off?
No.
You fire a few people, and in the process, what happens to the morale of the rest of your people?
Demoralized.
Wow, what a great job. Let me explain to you a little bit more. I'm not even saying you don't have fat. I'm not saying, but be careful. While cutting fat, there's a possibility you might cut muscles.
Very true. I agree to that point.
Often, when you cut costs by reducing people, the reduction in cost is insignificant as the reduction in throughput, which happens as a consequence in due course of time.
In the longer run.
In very short period, I'll give you an example. It happened with me.
Okay.
I used to buy what you call tickets from Jet. I travel business class.
Right.
Now, they reduce the number of people who can attend to my call and book my ticket.
I saw that. Correct.
They reduced, I mean, one ticket, if they don't do, I'm talking a few years back, average price was 30,000 rupees. One-way trip to Bombay and return is 60,000 rupees.
True.
What is the variable cost in an airline? Anybody has an idea? Variable cost. Pure variable cost.
You're talking of fuel?
That's also semi-variable.
Okay.
Pure variable will be the meals they serve to me.
True. Correct.
The other pure variable will be any taxes they pay to the government of India or the airport authority.
Right.
It will not be more than 1,000, 2,000 rupees. Fuel for all practical purposes will not be saved much.
Very true.
So one ticket, if I don't buy, just one customer lost will cover at least 2 of your sales agent entire month salary.
I appreciate that.
I have experienced it so much. And now I also will say from my own experience in the last 22 years, I have only one requirement: don't lay off people. As an extreme measure, it is possible that you are still in deep financial crisis. I'll say, okay, tell your employees, can we all take a salary cut? And starting heavily at the top level. For example, when this lockdown started, I recommended the top people should get no more than 50,000 rupees. Come down, come down, come down. The lowest was 20,000 rupees. Anybody who's getting up to 20,000 rupees, no cut. Anybody above in slabs, highest level 50,000. Rest money will pay you once the company situation improves. And it improved and they were paid back. In another company, again, it had 3 categories. It had 0 work in 2 months. April and May, their sales was 0. workers' salary they increased. They did not lay off one person. Staff salary, they kept it constant. And the top management, they reduced dramatically to make sure that what was the increase in the workers' cost was compensated from the top management. What do you think will be the morale of this team?
Very high.
Extremely high.
Very high. But there's one more. So
yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm interrupting. There's one thought which comes in. I was in a different industry earlier, in telecom. Lots of layout in that industry.
Look, stupidity is not the monopoly of any one organization.
I appreciate. I wanted to understand that. Deliberately, I asked this question.
Thank you.
My thoughts clear.
I like to be provoked. I like to provoke people. I have no issue whatsoever on this aspect. See, the point is, let me elaborate a little bit more general on this. When do we make money? When do we make money? When we solve somebody's pain. Do you agree? Please respond.
Sorry, the voice cracked.
Okay.
Yeah.
When do we make money? I'm saying we make money when we solve somebody's problem.
Agree.
Now tell me, is the overall pains in the entire society, are they going up, going down?
They're going much up, well, very high.
So at all times, the opportunity to make money is going high and not going down.
Yes, I agree. Your point is very valid. I was trying to do a discussion with my team today. Makes sense.
Now what happens? The pain may change, but in the foreseeable hundreds of years, I don't see pains coming down. The total quantum of pains in the world are going up.
Yeah, true.
Now the problem is, are you an MBA by any chance?
No, I'm a pure engineer.
Thank you. See, in MBA, I'm a little harsh on MBAs because you are taught, or MBAs are taught some wrong concepts. Cake is limited. If I have to win, somebody else must lose.
Share a wallet.
Yes.
We keep on speaking.
What we don't realize, the opportunity to expand cake is so high. Don't waste your time in snatching cash from others. The scope to increase cake is very high. Solve the pain. You make money, period. I'll give you a small example. By any chance, do you wear specs?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
A few years back.
In a, what you call, rainy season, when you come out of your air-conditioned car and you're checking into a hotel, what happens to your specs at that?
Obviously, there's a fog. You can't see it clearly.
Now,
very high-end lenses.
How long this problem has been lying there?
Quite some time.
I believe there's still no answer.
True.
Find a solution. We will be, how many people are there who will pay money to avoid this problem?
A lot, because that's risky also. When you're coming out of a car, when you're getting into a hotel, it's still fine, but you're getting on the road, there's a worry. You can't see anything.
Today, I have a problem when I go for my morning walk with my mask. And since outside temperature is very low, my breath, it makes my specs foggy.
Correct.
So I have two choices, walk without specs or without what you call mask. Now, see, there are ways.
Yes, I agree. In fact, there's a small solution. There's a clip which comes in which helps you to reduce the mask. Just offline, I'm discussing that.
Sure, share with me. I'd love to have that.
I'll share that separately. I'll share
okay.
Send it to her.
Chaliye. So let's complete our little bit.
Yeah.
See,
but point taken, sir. It was very eye-opening, I would say.
Thank you. Important is WIP for manufacturing companies at FG through TOC production solution is there called drum buffer rope. I will not get into more detail. You want more detail? Please send me a what you call communication separately. We'll be happy to support you. Pay small vendors for packing materials, transporters, freight forwards absolutely on time. If required, give them some advance. Give them some advance. Because without them also you can't move on. Generally, the big vendors squeeze you in any case. The people who suffer are the small vendors. And generally, we have a shortage, not of the big material. It is the small material which is not available. Keep all your financial commitments. If you're unable to pay the entire overdue amount, make commitment for a small amount, but always honor that commitment. Always. Preferably a day before. Break large customer orders into small lot orders in consultation with the customer. These are some very small, simple things. Go onto our website, read a lot about our client letters. Just to share one client, Jindal Steel and Power. It was, as per Mr. Naveen Jindal, touch and go situation 5 years back. Today, perhaps it's the only steel company in the entire world which has done better as compared to the same period, month after month, 1 year, what it was 1 year back. And I'm not talking of sales. In fact, it has been reducing its debt continuously. So all I'm explaining you is that whatever I'm talking about, it's not just theory. At least I have experience with many of my clients, not one, almost with every one of them. Convert OE into pure variable cost. This is another area, Amit, you can have. Since the company is in difficulty, you can say, okay, we'll convert your fixed expenses to variable. You don't need to come every day. Come for half a day, rest of the half day, whatever you want to do, you can do it. And if you want to do more, find a way of reduce your operating expense by converting into variable wherever feasible. This I've already explained. And coming back to the important last parameter, allocate available cash. This is my, once you are cash positive, keep some money for your employees. Should something go wrong, keep 1/3 for shareholders and 1/3 for deployment of business. Unfortunately, what happens today, 100% of the money is devoted along with borrowing from the bank for expanding business. Most companies in the world have a problem, premature expansion of their business. Why? Because they have wrong metrics. For them, growth in business or sales is the ultimate. It is the most stupid thing. I think this is the last slide. Yeah, that's a summary. Any more questions, please?
So there are 2 points. Somebody had asked initially, how much cash reserves should we have? And somebody had also pointed out that in the industry, it is considered a sin to keep cash lying idle. So your thoughts on these 2 points?
I have already mentioned, keeping cash idle was the wrong thing to start with and explained. World's one of the best company in the entire world is Berkshire Hathaway. Look at its performance over 60, 70 years. We are not talking of small period. Warren Buffett always kept a lot of money as cash reserve. Read his letters to the shareholders. That is number one. What was the other question? How much cash?
How much cash reserves?
It will depend. May I know who asked this question? Okay. Without knowing about the industry, it will be difficult for me to tell you how much cash reserves you should have. It depends upon your personality. Sachin Nahar. Sachin, so unmute yourself.
Yeah, I will just give him the option.
Please give him the option. Sachin,
yeah, Sachin.
Which industry are you working in?
I am into making FIBCs.
Okay. So if an FIBC, you'll have to see how much cash is required. I'll give you other way around. How much cash do you carry when you go out of the home these days?
I mean, to be honest.
Yeah, go ahead, honest.
Very little. I mean, we do.
Little, I don't understand. More than 10 rupees, less than 10 rupees. This I understand.
Okay, so let's say around 2,000 rupees.
2,000 rupees. Were you to travel to another city, how much would you keep?
I guess around 20,000 maybe.
Okay. Now, were you not to get any salary from now onwards, how many months can you survive?
At least 12 months.
Which means you have in your mind the cash reserves required for you to survive. Are you clear?
Yes.
Now, each company, depending upon their mentality or mindset, like Infosys kept 1 year's one. Warren Buffett would keep for a couple of years. That you will have to decide that, look, how much is your reading, how many months or years the situation could be bad. You keep as per that. I don't have an exact answer for each one of you. Primarily, I would say 6 months to 12 months, you must keep for your operating expenses.
Okay.
If I were to run any business, I'll tell you, when I started my career in consulting on my own, I kept 2 years of cash buffer. That if I don't get any income from consulting for next 2 years, I would not have to worry about it. This is the recommendation I also give to any consultant or aspiring consultant. At least have 2 years of cash flow.
Then in that case, could I ask, is there a definition? I mean, let's say a company starts. So in how much time do you think that they should have this reserve? Obviously, it should have, but it may not have in the beginning. But how much time you think it should have this adequate cash reserve, or let's say 6 months to 8 months?
Look, almost every company which starts, they know that they are not going to get money immediately. They already know that how many months can they survive. Actually, they keep all the time. Any startup, it does not plan to close down in next 6 months, does it?
Never.
So it always plans as if for next 6 months, if I do not have cash for 6 months, they will spend less to start with. They may scale down their plans so that at least they have 3, 6, 12 months somewhere, sometime they can survive, because nobody is going to give you business from day one. See, if you have less money, you can reduce your expenses. Don't go overboard. This is the problem is today's world, because where P's are entering in, cash burn is we want to burn more because money is coming freely. That's the problem.
Right.
Okay. Is there any other question? Because we're coming close to our closing time.
No, there are no more questions, but those who have requested for presentation have said that they might want to go through and come back. So I will also be sharing our email ID, so you can reply on that. You can send us your questions later also, and just give us some time to respond to it, but we will respond over email for sure.
Thank you, everyone. I appreciate your spending in the evening hours 2 hours with me. I really appreciate that.